Video game. The Walking Dead's Robert Kirkman says an animated adaptation like Invincible isn't possible until I get the rights back from AMC, and here's the full quote. Actually, this is not the full quote. Hold on, I spoiled it. There's definitely been developments over the years for something like this, and there's a lot of fans over here who would basically want to see this happen, right? Now, this is a place where I'm going to take a big L. I'm going to take a big L here, because I was 100% wrong. I thought AMC and, like, Kirkman's Walking Dead universe were two separate things. With a lot of these things, this is, by the way, this is true for One Piece. With One Piece, the reason why, like, the One Piece music can't be used for live action is because those are two different IPs. Like, one is Shueisha, the other is Toei. And I thought this was the same thing for The Walking Dead. So, AMC owns the rights to characters like DARYL and, like, the TV universe, right? That's what I thought. Apparently, no. Apparently, these are not two different things where Kirkman owns the rights to the comic book and AMC owns the rights to the TV show. Apparently, Kirkman just gave him everything. So he literally can't even make a show by himself. Not good. Very, very bad. If you recall, all of this is coming out of the deluxe comic books, by the way. If you recall, last year, we talked about exactly this. This was December 31st. I believe I talked about this on New Year's. I think so. Kirkman himself, and Kirkman has said this since, I believe, like issue 20-something. He said this before the TV version came out. Kirkman said, I would love to do an anime. He has been an anime dude as far back as the original comic book. Obviously, it got picked up for the live-action version, and we all know where that ends, right? So, Kirkman himself says, it'd be fun to do it, but I don't think AMC wants to do it, right? And now he straight up says, it's not happening until I get the rights back. Not a good situation. Not a good situation. Let me catch up on the, because there's more. There's more I have to say about this. Let me catch up on everything you are saying, and then we'll go, because as you might see, I still have a few links open. Why always the TV games that do bad? I will explain why. Because most people behind TV networks are corporates. They are ancient corporate dinosaurs who have zero artistic vision whatsoever. So what they do is like with The Walking Dead Destinies, destined for the trash heap. What they do is they give their IP out to anyone who wants to make money. That is what they do. Which, by the way, is also why I think we got the very, very bad Avatar game from this same studio. It's because that is Paramount giving out the IP to basically anyone who wants it. I think that's what happened. Because I don't think they see value in IPs in the same way that a creative sees value in an IP. That is why I believe that is the case. Every single, like, movie tie-in, TV tie-in, I think most of those are cash grabs by the studios. And a good showcase of, like, a good game based on a movie, I think, is like Hogwarts Legacy, and that has nothing to do with the movies. You know? That's like a good example of a separation between the IP itself and something that is a direct tie-in. Right? Like, one is a creative endeavor by Avalanche Studios. I think it was made by Avalanche. I'm pretty sure it was. And the other is like a weird tie-in. You know? It's a separation of corporates and artists, basically, is why I think that's the case. AMC is the real villain. True and real. True and real. How easy would it be to get the rights back? Getting the rights back... Let me show you something. Let's look up the Robert Kirkman Wikipedia page. So this is Tony Moore, that's not that. This is about that. So if you don't know, Robert Kirkman and AMC are not exactly on good terms. Oh my god, what is this? Robert Kirkman and AMC are not exactly on good terms. This isn't going to be a case of, thank you, Robert, for working with us all these years. We want to bring you back on and take the Walking Dead IP and do your magic. Unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen. There's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, including Galen Hurd, by the way. I stopped following this because I think there are like 3 different lawsuits going on right now. I don't know which of these is this. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. So, this is going on, right? A lot of these trials are obviously just like, I think they name like ridiculous figures with the intention of settling out of court. I think is the goal for this. But, you know, Because keep in mind, like, Robert Kirkman wasn't involved with the TV version ever since, like, season 3, 4. He just stopped working with them completely. And I think there's a reason for that. I don't think he's going to get the rights back. But I do think there's an important caveat. We'll talk about. The Stumbling Not Alive's animated series with Derek and Ryan being the leads. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't be against something that is like very tongue-in-cheek. You know, like we saw in Invincible. So you're a bat, and what was the phrase? He was obviously Batman, right? I don't remember what it was. How does he give away everything away that easy? I think it's literally just a money decision. I think so. I don't think I could ever like blame Kirkman for giving away the IP, considering the money he was probably given. It's like if I had an IP like The Walking Dead and I saw, because keep in mind, early Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman was 100% locked in. Robert Kirkman was working alongside all of them. You know, he was right there consulting basically most of what they were doing, even while working alongside the comic. You know. So he gave up the IP, thinking that AMC would do it justice, which they did for a long time, until they didn't. So, you know, I mean, it's just a money question. I think it's interesting how all TV universe games are kind of trash, but most Walking Dead games in the comic universe are at least decent. Yes. That's what I mean. I think it's literally AMC just giving the rights to anyone. He will call the comic adaptation The Dead Are Walking and everything will be alright. You're dressed like a bat and you're a man. Yeah, that's the line. That's the line. I tweeted out about it as well. Like, it's a shame that he didn't find the piece of treasure left in one place. It would have been very, very goofy. I think all of this is corporate stuff. But, you know what they say about corporate stuff? A lot of it is very soulless, and a lot of that is bad. But a lot of that we can use in our favor. So, let's entertain this idea, right? Like, The Walking Dead, unfortunately, we're gonna come back to this. The Walking Dead, it's not popping off. It's not popping off at all, right? If we, you know, go back to this, a new series released, it skyrockets, and if we go back to The Walking Dead, it's not popping off, you know? It's not popping off. So we need something. So what do? Well, if we follow the money, if you will, it kind of makes sense to get Kirkman back on board in some capacity. So, from a purely soulless corporate perspective, it makes sense to me. As for how they do it, I think it would have to be some sort of rev split model or something like that, and with the like absolute intention that this is going straight to AMC Plus. Like, we're literally, you're going to be doing this, we're going to give you like full creative freedom, adapt the comic book, and this is going right to AMC Plus, is what I think makes the most sense, right? But I think if they don't get Kirkman and try to do something like this themselves, I don't think it would ever have the intended effect. So, I think they need a House of the Dragon moment. I think that is basically the only thing that can save them now. Because I think, like, again, this is purely my observations, right? But I'm seeing a lot of the people in the Walking Dead subreddits, I'm seeing a lot of people generally online talking about how after The Ones Who Live, they are kind of done with the universe. You know? I'm the same. I'm not really interested in Daryl Dixon Season 2, Dead City Season 2. I'm not. I'm kind of done. And I think we're going to see this line right here drop even further. Because this right here, by the way, this is The Ones Who Live, I think. Somewhere around here, this is The Ones Who Live, February. Yeah. This is The Ones Who Live. So, now that they've lost that, I don't think they can actually farm out the spin-offs like we think they can. I don't. Because, like, even if they're small in scope, I don't think they really... They don't pull the numbers, I don't think, to make sense. And I think if they want to get back on top, they kind of need Kirkman. A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones Deja Vu? Basically, yeah. I'm gonna make a video about this. I'll spoil this. I'm gonna make a Walking Dead video. And, yeah. I've slept on it now for a long time. I think The Walking Dead fumbled the bag worse than Game of Thrones. Like, straight up. I never thought I'd say those words, but I think they did. I think they did. Kirkman will have to sign a contract with AMC, basically a deal with the devil. It's hard to say, really. Because, AMC does have, like, a very mixed reputation, but don't forget that Better Call Saul was, like, produced with, Better Call Saul was, like, a very weird collab with AMC, but it was like licensed for licensed with Netflix, right? Because it was a AMC property, but it was on Netflix and a bunch of other things as well, I believe. So I think the reason why they're being so weird with The Walking Dead is because like it's their only cash cow now. I think they're like I genuinely think they're like deathly afraid of losing The Walking Dead, I think is the problem. And I think that's why they're just completely farming it. And it's not really yielding positive results, and that's why I think they need Kirkman. I think without Kirkman, they're basically cooked. I genuinely think so. Game of Thrones fumbled the bag for a short while with season 7 and 8, however, Game of Thrones has a larger world lore to it compared to The Walking Dead. Yeah, but I think like the biggest shortcoming, because a lot of people talk about like season 8 in particular and like all the character changes and everything, but I think the biggest fumble in both Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead is that it started pandering to the audience, and I think that is the biggest blunder that a show can ever make, is starting to like acknowledge the fact that it is a show and it's pandering to the audience, right? So mild spoilers if you care, but like I've talked about this before, Jon Snow in Game of Thrones is literally Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. They can do no wrong, they are immortal, nothing will ever happen to them, despite freaking George R.R. Martin explicitly talking about how, like, not gonna get into specifics, but like certain things should have consequences, and it's not as simple as good guys doing good things. Both of these worlds were supposed to be gray. Everything in these worlds was gray. Rick was not a good guy. He was a good guy, but he was a good guy in a bad world, doing bad things in the name of good. You know? It's the same with Jon Snow. But in the later seasons, they're just good guys. I mean, you can find moral ambiguity if you really look for it, but there's really none. There's like no interesting questions that are asked. Yeah, and their plot armor and everything is just like completely fumbled, and the world itself, like Littlefinger teleporting around, you know, is the same thing with The Walking Dead. Like the rules of the world just fall apart, and like the whole meticulously crafted like image of the world that was presented is just broken down. Both of these shows have literally the same exact problems, and I think they stem from pandering to the audience. And I think like Bronn in was his name Bronn? I think his name is Bronn. Bronn appearing over and over in Game of Thrones just because people liked him, I think is a good showcase of that, because his arc was done, but he just kept appearing because people liked him. And I think it's the same thing with The Walking Dead. It's like these characters, their arcs are over, but we keep bringing them back because people like them. That is not how you should write a show. Like, to some extent, of course, you should serve the audience. Like, fan service is not, and I don't mean that kind of fan service. Fan service itself is not a bad thing. Like, you should service the fans, you know? Like, at the end of the day, you are making this thing for the fans, you know? But I think there's, like, a very clear line, and I think once you step over that line, it's over. It's over. The only spin-off I'd be interested in concerning The Walking Dead would be a Telltale adaptation or a direct comic adaptation. Exactly, yeah. Because, I've said this before as well, but, like, I've always thought I want a World of Warcraft 2, right? Because I kind of hold the same opinion with like, The Walking Dead and with, like, World of Warcraft, right? There's been scope creep, there's been creep in every area of the story, and I think wiping the slate clean and starting from zero would be better. But at the same time, it would be still, like, the same people working on it, so I think, like, intrinsically it would still have the same problems. You know? So I would, I keep saying, like, go back to day one, but I don't know if they're, like well, look what happened to Fear the Walking Dead, right? Because, like, Fear the Walking Dead, at the start, was completely different. And it was good for a little while, but then they just messed it up as well. And, like, Fear the Walking Dead, I keep stressing this problem of, like, breaking the world is the same thing in Fear the Walking Dead. It's like the world completely falls apart. It's very sad. Yes, AMC did make Breaking Bad. Exactly. Like, Shane is a very, very good character because Rick literally mirrors him. You know? Like, even in Alexandria, Rick comes into Alexandria, and in a way, like, obviously, Pete is a very horrible man. Like, Pete deserves everything that was coming for him, but in a way, Rick is being mirrored to Shane all throughout Alexandria, right? Anyway, returning to my point of following the money, right? Because if you want to understand what's going on in business, in soulless finance, in corporate finance, we want to look at the money. Let's look at Fallout 4. we had a bit of a Avatar situation, right? You release a new thing, and then everything that is sort of unrelated to the main thing suddenly gets infused, right? I went on a lot of these tangents, but let's go back to this. So, let's say, hypothetically, AMC calls up Kirkman, says, yo, Kirkman, we want you back. We want you back. We're going to give you the big bag. We're going to give you the big bag. We're going to give you complete creative freedom, but we're going to put your show on AMC Plus. Okay, we're going to put your show on AMC Plus. It's going to be only there, a subscription service, but you get complete creative freedom. We're going to do revenue sharing. It's going to be great. You just make this thing for us, and we'll put it on our platform. And suddenly, you have The Walking Dead animated. And a lot of people might be like, hey, The Walking Dead. I remember watching that. That was kind of good. And suddenly, you have this nice funnel in the shape of a new show going back to the old show. And suddenly you have this positive feedback loop of people watching more The Walking Dead on the same platform, right? And maybe some of these people will be like, I dropped off around like season 8. Now the whole thing is out. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. And hey, Rick appears again. I'm gonna watch that as well. You know, now that it's all over and done with, I'm already subscribed. Might as well, you know, have a very, very nice funnel. So, following the money, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Because every single point of evidence suggests that adaptations, reboots, everything of this sort is a net positive for the franchise. Even bad reboots are good for the franchise. Because they just go back to the original, you know? Like, people said this about Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is the world's most expensive advertisement for Path of Exile. Because people look at the thing they're interested in, and then look at the other things that are tangentially related to it, you know? I know it's not an adaptation. Yeah, I know. It's like not a direct adaptation, but I'm talking about like purely this like bleeding over of interests, you know? So if they did a comic adaptation, I do think that there would be a funnel of people watching the comic adaptation, then checking out the live action adaptation. I think so. Did you watch the Fallout show? Not yet. I wanted to start it, but I was really struggling with getting up the Avatar video, so I haven't watched it yet. I've heard very, very good things about it, so I'm very excited to watch it, because I love the Fallout universe. To be fair, I mean, I basically love all post-apocalyptic universes, so Fallout is really not an exception. AMC has a streaming service? Yes. And by the way, one thing that I have to figure out is like licensing in the EU. The fact that they have a streaming service and I can't legally buy it, like, I have to use a VPN, is dumb. Because, like, if you look at this, right? The reason why I brought this up is because look at Kirkman's phrasing. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, and it's totally a possibility. The fact that Kirkman says, like, it would be fun, but I don't know AMC's appetite for such things. So to me, this is implicitly, like AMC might do it. AMC might do it, but, like, I don't know what they're doing, you know? It's kind of like, it's not my thing. They might do it, maybe not. This, on the other hand, sounds like I want to do it, but I don't think AMC is interested. I think, like, these two things, to me, read very differently. Because I think this is, like, indifferent. This is interested. May just be me. But, like, if Kirkman himself is interested, I do see a universe where this does happen. I do. So as much as I joke about us taking a big L about being like AMC fans, as much as I joke about it, I do think there's a chance. I do. And like I said, I've said this in streams before. I've said this in I think I've said this in videos before. If this happens, I'm making a promise here and now. If we get a animated The Walking Dead series, I will make a overanalyzing The Walking Dead series on the main channel. Every single video, every single episode, like 30 plus minutes, just like I'm doing with Attack on Titan. I'm gonna do it. I've committed to this. This is a promise. So if it happens, I'm waiting. Are you not from the US? I've never even been in the US. I've not once been in the US. I feel sorry for you. Nah, like if they did like 100% faithful animated comic, Oh, I'd be so locked in. I'd be so locked in. If it happens, but I just feel bad for the live TV show with how it flops. I felt the same way, but like, and this is the worst part. Like with The Walking Dead, when it was going really, really wrong, like with season 8, start of season 9, not really, but like season 8 especially. With season 8, I was like, how are you messing up this bad? And I was like, actually, like, I wasn't really angry, but I was like sad and sort of like, how are you messing it up, you know? But the worst part now is that, like, just like with Game of Thrones, I'm kind of indifferent. And I think that's like far worse. Because I think like being mad and being sad, that is still an emotional reaction, which means I am invested. But after The Ones Who Live, I am honestly just indifferent. I think like apathy from a show and like indifference to a show is far, far worse than being angry. Oh, there was supposed to be a Last of Us animated series short that looked really cool, but it got cancelled. I suspect that like with the success of The Last of Us, we're probably going to see something more with it. Because like Last of Us 3 has been all but confirmed, right? I'd love to see more stuff from The Last of Us, especially because with The Last of Us show they have Neil is Druckmann, right? Neil Gaiman is someone else. I think it's Druckmann. They have him involved, and Craig Mazin is an awesome showrunner. Craig Mazin is the GOAT. The Governor arc would be crazy if they actually animated that. One of the darkest characters, some science fiction. It's real bad, yeah. It's real bad. And like with things like that, even if they wanted to censor it, I'd be completely fine with them like this is my like imaginary cinema brain. I just imagine a scene where like you see a corner of a room, there's like a shadow falling in the corner, and you just hear like a drill noise, and the governor is like screaming or something, and then like Michonne is like, you know, doing stuff. If you know, you know. We don't actually ever see any of it, but it's implied, and through that implication, it's almost even worse, you know? So they could still like censor things if they really didn't want to show them. I think it'd be fine. I think there's a number of stuff they could easily censor. The one thing that like, because this is something that I've seen people talk about in comments already, like talking about an animated version, is like, if they did an animated version, please include DARYL. No. No. This is where I am actually a boomer with like World of Warcraft Classic. No changes. What is the freaking point of adapting the comic book if we're going to be making changes just like we did when we were adapting the comic book into live action? Like, if we're gonna do the comic, it literally needs to be page for page, panel for panel. Unless, like, Kirkman wants to change something slightly, because, like, in hindsight, he sees a problem. Like, if they announced a comic book adaptation that is a remix with the TV version, I would already be like, you've lost 50% of me. 50% of me, you've lost me. I don't want that. Because if they include DARYL, they've like immediately undermined Shane to a certain extent. They've undermined Tyrese. They've undermined Abraham. They've undermined Jesus. They've undermined like a long list of characters just with the inclusion of DARYL. So I don't want them to do any of these sorts of weird mix-ups. What about Herschel's twin daughters? What about them? You mean the fact that they lost their heads? Gotta get creative. Gotta get creative. Honestly, I think standards around that sort of stuff have sort of softened. You know? I don't think there would really be like... I don't think it's a big problem. I think you could show it. I don't think it's that bad. Because when I think about like Game of Thrones, the stuff in Game of Thrones was like infinitely worse than The Walking Dead, and HBO didn't pick up The Walking Dead because it was too brutal. Bro. By the way, can you, oh my god, can you imagine an alternate universe where The Walking Dead was actually picked up by HBO? You want to see, you know what, you want to see what HBO is doing with Game of Thrones. So House of the Dragon is obviously happening. A Night of the Seven. So this is Duncan Eng's story. This is confirmed. Aegon's Conquest is confirmed, which I'm very excited about. The Golden Empire is in development. The Sea Snake is in development. 10,000 Ships is in development. HBO is cooking. And they recently canceled one of them because there were like pictures of like a premiere that they cut. So can you imagine? Can you imagine? Kirkman's awesome. To think he went from decades of mediocre comedies like The Hangover to Chernobyl and The Last of Us. I think I said this in my Last of Us videos as well, I believe. I don't remember where I said this, but I think the fact that he went from Chernobyl, where he had to be like historically accurate, to The Last of Us was like it was a very, very good indication that he, like if he respects history, and if he respects the true story of Chernobyl, he would do the same thing with The Last of Us, even though it's fiction, you know? So to me, like, looking back, all of that, like, lines up perfectly. I think Craig Mazin is such a cool dude. He clearly cares about the material he adapts, and he's not, like, one of those people who's like, I'm adapting this thing, and I will make it mine. I think there's, like, a very weird... Because it makes sense to me, like, if you're a director, and you get, like, someone else's work, you want to, like, leave your mark on it. But personally, I find that really, really disrespectful. Like, if I were to work on someone else's projects, I don't want to make it mine, you know? I want to, like, contribute in the best way that I can, while still, like, acknowledging that this is not my thing. Like, I'm merely contributing to this thing that is greater than me, you know? And I feel like a lot of people sort of get caught up in the whole, I'm gonna make this thing mine, and they make changes that make no sense, stuff like that. And Craig Mazin, like, in every interview, he was like, we talk with Neil all the time. We greenlit every change, and then Neil was like, actually, this is great. I wish I had this in the game. So that was really, really cool. George is not cooking, though, whereas Winds of Winter? I think Winds of Winter is going to come out. I think Winds is going to come out, but I think A Dream of Spring will remain a dream. The more I, like, read of George's other work, because I recently also read, like, Fire and Blood and all the other stuff in the Thrones universe. Like, George as an author, as a writer, is... man's a beast. It's so insane, the stuff he's written. Because, I've said this before, like, after Game of Thrones, I thought I'd never be back in Westeros. But now, like, with House of the Dragon, and, you know, like, going through all of George's actual work, goddamn. Goddamn. Because I recently rewatched all of Game of Thrones again, just to confirm that it's still as bad as I remember it was. It was. Must be hard to write after seeing 13 years of theories. I think so, yeah. Because, like, the best thing about, like, Game of Thrones and theories is, like, you read, like, the Grand Northern Conspiracy, you read, like, a bit more, there's, like, also another conspiracy in the East, and then there's another conspiracy in the West, and another one in the South, and George is probably like, goddamn. They've cooked up all this stuff. Because, like, hasn't he said that he, like, knows the general gist of a bunch of theories? I'm not sure. Might be mixing up authors. I don't remember whether George, like, follows theories or not. But it must be, like, hard at least knowing, you know, that a lot of people have been cooking up theories for a very, very long time. But returning to this. Money-wise, it makes perfect sense to me. Is it gonna happen soon? I don't think so. My original thought was, like, that this deluxe version is the biggest brain move to, like, basically storyboard what an adaptation would be, right? Because obviously the original comic is there. You could use that as a storyboard, right? Basically. But with the colored version now coming out, I thought they were, like, finalizing designs, colors, and everything like that. And then after that is done, they start adapting it into an animated version, right? That was, like, my 300 IQ thought. Because, like, again, it's about creating this web of value. It's the same thing that we saw with, like, One Piece and Netflix, right? It's like you want to capture all of that audience onto one place. If there was to be some sort of collaboration with Kirkman and AMC, and they got, like, Kirkman's version on AMC Plus, and you had, like the synergy between the live-action version and the comic version, and on top of that, you also had Kirkman's original comic fully in color, fully in black and white, like, the value generation in that little circle there would be insane. It's the same thing that, like, happens with books all the time, right? Like, the book is released, then a movie is released, and then there's also, like a re-release of the book, tie into X. Do you want to see an adaptation? Have you played Telltale's Walking Dead? I did many, many years ago. I want to replay it on stream again. Because I started playing it, like, 2 years ago on stream. I played through episode 1 of season 1. And something happened, and I just never came back to it. Because I've played through all of it, like, years and years. Whenever they came out, basically. I played episode 1. That must have been, like, 2012? Probably, like, 2012, I think. And 2013, and whenever they came out. I remember, like, the story in broad strokes, obviously. But I don't remember all the intricacies. I think the Telltale's version is the single closest thing that has been to the comic book. Even now. The Telltale game was excellent. Will you ever make the Walking Dead game content? I've thought about it, yeah. Maybe. Like, my content right now, like, I work on things, like, very sporadically, right? there is stuff that I stick to, like the One Piece series and the Attack on Titan series. Those I stick to, but like the reason why I stick to them is because like I'm really invested in them personally. With the Walking Dead retrospective right now, I'm genuinely just like, I think if I were to write a script now, because I am chipping away at them, like I'm doing a lot of the behind the scenes boring work for them anyway. But I think if I really sat down to like record a voiceover and everything, I think it'd be kind of miserable. And I think it'd come across in the videos. So like the TV universe right now, I'm gonna come back to it, but right now I'm not like super invested in it. All the other Walking Dead stuff, I mean, I still love The Walking Dead, you know? That's the thing. I absolutely still love this universe. I love everything about it. I just wish, you know, it was doing a little bit better. Like, even with, like, oh my god. I'm just thinking of, like, seeing the Duck story for the first time. That was episode 3, right? And the soundtrack, oh my god, I still listen to the soundtrack regularly. The Telltale's Walking Dead soundtrack, it just messes me up. It's so sad. It's so good. I love it.